Well, good day everybody. This is Joe. Welcome back to the channel. Hey, I got this Torpedo typewriter given to me by my friend Kevin, and it was actually in pretty rough shape. Really dirty, really grungy, really hard platen. And so it's probably been close to 2 months since I first got it. I assessed it, took it apart, and removed the platen and shipped the platen off to J.J. Short, along with the rubber rollers on the paper bale. The feed rollers underneath the platen were actually in pretty good shape. So I waited about a month or so, maybe 3 weeks roughly, and got the platen back. And then it's been a couple weeks since I've received the platen. Finally got around this week to working on the typewriter and getting it all together. So I shot some video out in the workshop of getting this thing together and cleaning it, degreasing it and everything, doing a lot of adjustments to it. Started yesterday, which was Sunday, in the garage. Finished up today out on the front porch in the beautiful autumn sunny day here in Albuquerque. So let's talk about the Torpedo typewriter. This is a really nicely built typewriter, but it was really dirty and kind of greasy and grungy. The ribbon cover, there's a bad scratch right here and here. Looks like obviously from the carriage return lever. Missing a couple of keys right here, the 4 and the 5 key. Kevin gave me a spare set of keys off of Smith Corona. They obviously don't match color-wise or shape-wise, but they work, right? This is my first Torpedo typewriter, and I would say it reminds me a lot of an Olympia. It really does, an Olympia SM something or other. I'm not really sure. In terms of build quality and design, it is really nicely engineered, pretty rugged, and you know what? It does not have a touch adjustment, but it has a really nice touch now that I've serviced it. Let's go take a look now at all the work I did to this typewriter. I got a package a few weeks ago from J.J. Short Associates Incorporated. What do you think it is? Well, if you're into typewriters, you know what it is. It is a replacement platen or a recovered platen, and it's for a Torpedo. Yes, the Torpedo typewriter given to me by Kevin Kittle. And this thing is really dirty and needs a lot of degreasing and cleaning. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is degrease the chassis of the typewriter, clean it, degrease it, get it as clean as I can before I put the roller back in. So I have this old green towel. This is my grease towel. This is what I use for cleaning and degreasing all these typewriters. So I set it on this towel, has plenty of absorbency. Okay. Oh yes, this thing is really pretty dirty, pretty grungy. So I've set up the typewriter with some protective rags over the keyboard and over the carriage assembly, and I'm going to try cleaning the segment area and try to get all this gunk off. So I'm going to use a combination of isopropyl alcohol and maybe some lacquer thinner right there, and I use cotton buds and my trusty hair coloring brush, the nice stiff brush, and toothbrush and all that. Oh yeah, mascara brushes, although the ones I have just the brush ends left. But I'll be doing that here for a while, and an air compressor to blow all the gunk out of that. Okay, well, that was just the first go-around of cleaning, just working on the segment area first. I'm going to test the segment slots to see how sticky they are. So what I do is I set the typewriter up on its back side, and I'm going to hold the universal bar, this bar, away from the linkages, and then I'm going to press each key and release it, and I'm going to see how easily the type bars are able to move back up to their home position just under their own weight and with their own spring tension. So here we go. Each of these keys should snap back to their home position freely. That one's a little sluggish. The 8 and the plus equals is still sluggish, so I'm going to have to work on that one some more. At the N, maybe a little bit. And the comma maybe a little bit. So it looks like I still have some more cleaning to do, cleaning and degreasing, so I'm going to just continue doing it. Okay, so I hit some of those problem key areas with alcohol and this little brush here. So let's do the old test again. And I'll just, if I find any sticky keys, I'll just keep repeating the same method until they are unsticky and reliable. The machine isn't totally degreased and cleaned. It's going to take a lot of spot cleaning to get it really clean, but I think the carriage is clean enough now. I really want to try to get the platen roller reinstalled. So let's go ahead and cut this guy open and see what our platen looks like. I'm excited to get this back in. I made some video clips on my phone before I sent this out, just to remind myself of how best to put this back together. So hopefully there won't be any problems with getting it back together. So I not only sent out the platen, but I sent out the rubber rollers on the paper bale. Get this out. Look at that, sweet rubber platen. So the whole trick will be getting the shaft in here with the little slip clutch, and hopefully get that working. And cross your fingers. Okay, so this is the drive shaft that goes through the center of the platen. I've marked this knob as the right-hand knob. I have a little note here. There's a bolt here on this side, and there is a washer here that goes on this side. Okay, I'm cleaning off the inside of this brass tube that goes on the left end of the platen shaft. So I cleaned off this shaft, so it goes here. And then the screw is going to go back in here. Well, okay, so the right side of the platen, there's a little slot up inside the tube, the middle of the tube, and I've marked it with a marker here. And so then brass sleeve goes here, and the screw goes in here. Okay, so I got the shaft through the platen. I got the little thin washer in there. I have a little pin mark for that slot is inside the platen. I'm going to line it up with this and try to get this guy now in here. Okay, there we go. Now, let's get that mark on the platen. Okay, there's the mark. And there is the hole for the screw, the slot for the screw. And, okay. So, this is the part where you then put in this set screw. It's tight. There we go. Maybe. Okay, so there is a hole, a threaded hole, and I have to put this pin, this threaded pin, into there. Okay, so which way does it go? It looks like it's probably like that. All right, now, see if we can get this in here. Okay, so with the clutch pushed in, I have my ratchet, and with it pulled out, it has a slip. On the left platen knob, there's a screw that has a long shank, an unthreaded shank that goes through and threads onto the other side, and that goes through this hole right here. And line that up like that. Nice. Okay, however, there are a few things to note here. First of all, I have a baggie that says left side plate put on before putting on the carriage return lever. Carriage return lever being here, and it has a E-clip and a screw and a nut that engages this little lever here. So I got to put the plate on before the lever, but I have this baggie that says right side plate put on before installing platen rod. Well, I should have read my little instructions, but this is a good lesson on how to put the machine back together properly. Is you bag up everything and you make notes about what the right order is. And since we're talking about that, this is the order that I took things out. First was the comb behind the number keys, little screws. I even have the quantity of screws too. Second was the bottom screws for the U side panel. Third one here, fourth one here, etc. Okay, so here I've taken the platen rod out but left the platen installed, and going to put on this right side plate. I have reinstalled, or I had reinstalled the screws so they wouldn't get lost. Okay, so I think it goes like this, something like that. And okay, now moving the camera back slightly now. Put back the guide rod. It's a little tight on this end, and hopefully it goes through. Yep. We have to put in this little screw and make sure that we have the right hole lined up. And I think I have to turn it a little bit. Goes in that little slot all the way. Okay, so I have the baggie with the left side plate and the two screws mounting the left side plate are, there you go. If you bend things enough, it'll go, but you don't want to break it. Now, this guy, so we have to pull off the E-clip right here. Lay that aside for a moment. Then there is a short machine screw and a nut. Pull that screw off. And this goes through like that. With my third hand, I will then push this. Okay, that threads in there. Okay, the next thing is the paper bales. So there's a screw here on the right side, and it has a little washer. You don't want to lose that. The little metal tab goes in like that, probably like that. Okay, so just to make it symmetrical, we will do the other one the other way. It grips pretty nicely against that new platen. So this is the kind of machine that the reversing of the ribbons is done by these little levers. So if this pack of ribbon was full, then this spindle moves over here, and when this one gets empty, then this one moves. Okay, well, I've put the old ribbon back in just temporarily to test the machine out, and we'll see how it works. Pressure rollers release okay, feels like. But hey, I got some printing here. Let's go to caps lock. Looks like we got some letters. Going to have to take a lot of degreasing though, still because this, yeah, this machine, this escape or segment is very sluggish still. I'd say it's a pretty good quality typeface for being an old ribbon. Okay, so I'm about done for the night. The segment is still a little gummy. So what I'm going to do is I have it in a plastic bag. I have a bunch of paper towels on the bottom of it. I'm going to spray some PB Blaster in here and then close up the bag. And close up the bag, let it sit overnight, and I can still work the keys through the bag. Well, it is the next morning. It is a nice morning out here. So the typewriter sat all night in the white plastic bag in the garage. When I came out to the garage this morning, I didn't smell any PB Blaster in the garage. So the plastic bag sealed it up very nicely. So that's a little trick you guys might want to remember. But I'm out here in this beautiful fall morning in my front courtyard in the sun. And I did an initial test typing, and the type bars all feel really good. There's no sticking or hanging up or anything. But I did run out of PB Blaster yesterday evening, and so I ran up to the auto parts store and got another fresh can of it just in case I needed it. And I did put a little bit into these plates here, these sliding plates where the line advance happens. It was just a little bit kind of sluggish. So I did that, and just doing a little bit of cleaning right now. But I did notice while I was test typing and also fiddling with the tabs and the carriage release lever, the escapement hung up again and the carriage wouldn't lock. So I'm going to have to take apart the escapement mechanism, take out the escapement rocker, and get that all cleaned and adjusted. I think there's a nut underneath that rocker plate that is loose, and that set screw is free to turn, and it vibrates itself to a point where it starts sticking. So I'm going to have to take that all apart and look at that. And that sticky plate is this one right here. It doesn't move really freely. Sometimes it hangs up. So this whole rocker plate right here, basically take off this spring and this spring and loosen up the set screws here and right over here. And then I'll be able to take this whole plate out, hopefully, and adjust it and clean it and everything. Okay, so there's a pivot point down here that was really impossible or very difficult to get to that nut because of this arm here. So instead I loosened and took off the pivot point here, and then loosened a screw right here on this little arm here. And the result is, here is the escapement itself. These two springs you have to take loose, and here are the pivot point bearings right here and one right here. So and here's the left hand set screw for the pivot point. Here's the nut and screw that go in this bracket arm right here. But let me turn this over a minute and show you the bottom side of it. Oops, that arm fell off. Bottom side, look, I don't know if you can tell how dirty that is, but that's just caked with grease and grit and grime. So definitely going to need to be degreased and cleaned. So it's taken me over an hour to get this escapement back together and working properly. I had some issues, but there it is. And nice thing is the tabs work also. You can set tabs and all that. So working very nice. So the machine still has some superficial cosmetic cleaning to be done on the inside here. But I think I'm going to go ahead and thread up a new ribbon. I have a brown ribbon here from Ribbons Unlimited. I'm going to put a brown ribbon in this thing and give it a test type. Well, I got a brown ribbon in here. So I have previous test typing from the old ribbon. Let's see here. Okay, that's pretty good. I think it's going to work good for this typewriter. It has a nice feel to it, actually, and it looks like so far it's working fine. Everything looks like it's reliable. We'll see. You know, it's hard to tell with a lot of these typewriters until you really get them out there working. There's also this issue of the type bar rest, which is a felt strip right here. It's going to need to be re-glued down, but it's just going to take a little bit of glue for that. Yeah, just a minor thing. Getting all the body panels back on and cleaned and remounted and everything, cleaning up the keys and everything, just cosmetic stuff from here. So there was a little bit of time this afternoon when I was out on the front porch working on this, and the escapement kept giving me trouble, and I knew I was going to have to pull out the whole rocker plate out of the escapement. And I did. It was really dirty and grungy with all kinds of particulates and grease and everything. Getting it back in was really rough. And then there's this little kind of a U-shaped wire spring that goes into around the star wheel of the escapement, and it came loose, and it took me a long time to get that thing back together. A lot of fiddling for over an hour, a couple hours worth of really intensive fiddling to get the escapement back together so it works reliably, and I'm happy to say I got it. There's still, right now, there still is a few cosmetic things I need to fix. Like, there's just, for instance, I've cleaned the faces of the type slugs, but there's still some grunge on the sides and the back and the top of the type bars. So just like that kind of detail work that just needs a lot of detailed scrubbing and everything, that'll wait for later. My biggest concern, though, was getting everything together and verifying after all the work I've done to it and removing the platen and all this, making sure everything is working properly, and it is. I can successfully say that. I'm really happy about this. It took a lot of work, actually, to get this back together. Okay, this typewriter, what is it? What does it represent to me in my collection? Well, it's a German-made typewriter from, I'd say, the 1960s, and it is built really well, but this particular example was in pretty rough shape, I'd say. To restore this typewriter to absolutely museum quality condition, the ribbon cover would need a custom paint job, and I would have to find exact replacements for the two missing keycaps, which pretty much is impossible to find this exact color in this shape with these key logos. So some people, like in their typewriter collection, they like to have their machines totally restored to some kind of like museum quality condition. Whereas myself, I'm not as concerned about that. I don't mind it showing signs of wear, like for instance the scratches on the ribbon cover or the fact that two of the keycaps were missing. To me, it's kind of like evidence of the past life that this machine lived in someone else's care. And I don't know who that person was. We don't know really the backstory, but every typewriter has a backstory. Whether it was used by a little old lady and kept in the closet for years, or if it was really abused and worked hard, we don't really know a lot of times. We have just indirect evidence. But I like the idea of a well-made machine like a Torpedo that has been successfully reconditioned in good operating order, even though it has less than pristine cosmetics. I don't mind that, because to me, the most important thing are the haptics, the feel, the touch, the operation of it. That, to me, is what matters. This is a functional machine. This is not a beautiful, pristine, museum quality. This is like having somebody with a missing front tooth, right? With the two keys that are different color and shape. For my purposes, where this machine falls in my collection, it's probably going to be one of those that I'll use during public type-in events because it's rugged, it works well, it has a great touch. I think it's going to be great for taking to a type-in and letting the public use it. It's less than pristine, but it just goes to show you that you can recondition, you can bring back to life a machine that was in really bad shape And it has a second life now. You can use it to create new work, new life with this machine. Less than pristine, has some cosmetic issues, but it's working great, and that's what I love. Well, this is Joe Van Cleve, and I want to encourage you guys that if you have a machine like this in your collection, the most important priority is to get it in good mechanical shape. Cosmetic condition is less important, in my view at least. The most important thing is that it functions properly as a typewriter should. All right, guys. Until next time, you know the drill. Stay creative. And as always, have a great day. Bye-bye.